Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Move of the Holy Spirit. Today, we're going to be talking about man like Daniel. I believe that everyone has heard about Daniel, even if you do not know his significance in the Bible, you've heard about him. So, we're going to be talking about him today, and we're going to be learning a few things from his life in Babylon. Let's start from Daniel chapter 1. Daniel and his friends were taken captive from Jerusalem to Babylon, and the king had ordered that a few of the Israelites should be chosen to serve him. Now, there was a criteria to choose these people. Number one, they had to be young men. Number two, they had to be young men without any physical defect. Then they had to have an aptitude for every single subject. They had to be quick at understanding. They had to have knowledge in every area. Now, Daniel and his friends were selected to be part of the people that will be trained to serve the king. I want to pick something from that. Daniel and his friends were excellent in whatever it is that they were being taught in Israel. If not, they would not have been selected. People might like to say, yes, he was good looking, he did not have a physical defect, and that was the reason why he was chosen in the first place. But yes, even beauty, what can you bring to the table? I know that most of us like to say that we are the table, and that in itself is enough. But what can you bring to the table? Are you excellent at what you're doing? Can you stand out from the crowd? Or would you just blend if you were part of that crowd that was to be chosen to serve the king? Now, after they had been chosen, food from the king's table was presented to these men that had been chosen in order for them to be nourished enough so that when they had to learn, they would assimilate, because we know that the brain needs nourishment, the brain needs good food in order to process things properly. Now, Daniel and his friends rejected this food. Why? Because the food had already been defiled, that had been offered to the gods in Babylon. Now, this looks like they are doing too much. I mean, it's food. We need to learn. We're in school. How do we process information if we do not eat good food? And if we do not eat good food, it means we're not going to do well in class. If we do not do well in class, we're not going to excel in front of the king. How do I want to get to the palace in order to influence decisions, in order to represent my God, if I am not eating good food? Add another zero to it. It's not a big deal. Everybody's doing it. We're collecting the money so that we can do good. If we ask for 10 million naira, they're going to give us 1 million naira. Just add that extra zero. So whatever they give us, we'll be able to do what we want to do. What we want to do is good. Does it glorify the name of God? Oh, it's a little white lie. It's never hurt nobody. Just tell him this and that, and you'll be safe. A house that is built on a foundation of lies and wrong conduct will never stand. Now, if it happens that Daniel and his friends decided to eat the food that was brought from the king's table, nothing bad would have happened to them. I don't believe that God would have punished them for that, because they were captives. They were captives from Jerusalem. They had no choice, they had no say in this. But they rejected it. And they asked the captain to test them for 10 days. They said, give us vegetables to eat and water to drink, and test us in 10 days and see if we're good to go or not. Now, let's note that Daniel did not know that if they were going to eat vegetable and water, that they would be well nourished. But he had an idea of the God that his fathers had served. He had an idea about the God that he was serving, and he had an idea of the miracles that he had performed in the past. And he was confident in that and had faith that that God that had parted the Red Sea was able to do this, because this was very little compared to what he had done in the past. And so after 10 days, they tested them and they saw that they were looking well nourished, even better than the people that were eating from the king's table. And then when it was time for the king to test them, the king tested and saw that they were 10 times better than the rest. That in itself is a miracle. And then in chapter 2, the king had a dream. Dun, 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 dun. And normally, when people have a problem and they want a solution, they tell you the problem so you can prefer a solution. But in this case, the king told the sorcerers, the enchanters, the magicians, and all the wise men that he had a dream. But he wasn't going to tell them what the dream was. What he wanted them to do was to tell him the dream and then give an interpretation. Imagine you're in class and your teacher calls you to the front of the class and tells you that she has an equation in her head. She wants you to determine what that equation will be, write it on the board, and then solve it on the board. And you have to get the answer. Ma, excuse me. Are you okay? I mean, this day and age, people would have brought out their phones, they would have captured the whole moment, they would have dragged the woman on Twitter, and they would have declared justice for the students. The people told the king that, sir, this thing you've asked us to do is impossible. We cannot read your mind. It's either you tell us the dream and we interpret it, or you let us be. And then the king was fuming, he was angry, and then he sent them out of his presence and ordered their execution. Then let's not forget that Daniel and his friends were part of the wise men. Remember? So let us look at it. God has blessed you with a new job. You're earning so much, you have so much influence. And then trouble comes knocking. It's either you decide to go back to the God that gave you the job in the first place for help, or you panic, and they chose to go back to God. Now, before they did that, Daniel did something that blew my mind. He went to the king to ask for some time. Now, when the magicians, the enchanters, the sorcerers, and the rest of them were interacting with the king, they were trying to buy time. They were like, oh king, tell us this thing, because it's not possible that we know what you're thinking. And then the king was upset because he felt like they were trying to buy time and they were wasting his time. And then Daniel was going to ask the king for more time. In all seriousness, that was a death wish. A king that was angry and that had gotten upset because they were wasting his time. You're going there to ask him to give you more time. And then the king granted his requests. Let's pick another lesson from that. Daniel must have proved himself worthy over and over and over again for the king to grant his request. The king must have known Daniel's worth, and that is the reason why he listened to him. Also, I want to believe that the king respected Daniel because, and then Daniel went back to his house, called his friends, and then they prayed that God would reveal the dream to them and the interpretation. At night, the dream was revealed to Daniel. Daniel told the king, and something happened in verse 46. The king prostrated before Daniel. I don't even want to use kings in this our own generation as an example, but let's think of an army general that has won several wars. If you see a military man in public and you and somebody are fighting and you see him pass by, no matter how gentle that man is, when you see him, you will behave yourself because we know what they're capable of doing, whether they are good or bad. And that in itself is enough to make us respect ourselves. So imagine someone like that times 10, and then he prostrates before you and then is giving you so much honor. That was exactly what happened to Daniel. And then the king went on to say, your God is surely the God of gods, the Lord of kings, and the revealer of mysteries, because he has revealed this to you. So in essence, not only was Daniel excellent at what he was doing, not only was he able to prove himself over and over again, he was able to glorify the name of God in the process. Then the king made Daniel to be in charge of the province of Babylon. Now, something happened after that, which was in the last verse. Daniel went to meet the king to ask that he make his friends administrators in the province. Let's also pick something from that. God has blessed you to bless someone. So yes, Daniel was excellent. Daniel was blessed. Daniel had been promoted. But he did not stop at that. He understood the need for more men of integrity, for more men that had the love of God, for more men that respected God to be in decision making offices. And so, because of that, he placed his friends there. So, as believers, when God blesses you, he has blessed you to raise someone else. A lot of times we hear majorly non-believers make statements like, pastors are trying to eat our money. This person is trying to dupe us. I mean, every single day concerts are organized by secular musicians, and it's not a bad thing. But people spend a lot of money on these things. So why will you, as a believer, be in a position of authority and not be able to lift a fellow believer? As a believer, you should be excellent at whatever it is you're doing. Like I made mention in my last video, in your Chronos moment, you need to be excellent. You need to keep aiming for perfection, so that when you have the opportunity to prove yourself, which is your Kairos moment, you can excel. So we do not stop at excelling in our Kairos moment. We lift others. Yes. So Daniel was not just comfortable with being blessed. Oh, I mean, I've been blessed and that's good. I mean, I worked for it. I was not a lazy man. I was diligent at what I was doing. And so I deserve it. And that's right. His friends, I don't think his friends asked him to help them to climb the ladder of success. But he made sure he did it. Because we need more hands. See, if the gospel will be preached, if it will reach the ends of the earth, we need money. We need people in position of power that can make decisions. We need people in places of power that have the fear of God in them, that will not only excel at what they're doing, but will also ensure that whatever they are blessed with, they use to raise the name of Jesus. Now, a lot of people will complain that things are not going well in Nigeria. We're even going too far if we're talking about Nigeria. Things are not going well in our place of work. You know the reason why things are not going well? You know the reason why people are stealing money? It's because people that do not have the fear of God are sitting in places of authority. Imagine an organization where a man like Daniel is a CEO and his friends are in positions of power, key positions of power. Imagine how the organization will thrive. Imagine how much benefits the employees will enjoy. That's what happens when people that are in love with Jesus, when believers that are men and women of integrity climb the ladder of success and pull up fellow believers with them. As God is blessing you, be a man like Daniel. Bless someone too. Because only you cannot do the work. Daniel needed his friends when he needed to pray to God for the dream to be revealed to them. Be a man like Daniel. Thank you very much for staying with us this far. I'm very grateful. If you've not watched the previous video, Chronos versus Kairos, I'm looking at you with my third eye. Go and watch it. For those that have watched it, thank you, thank you, thank you. Don't forget to like, comment. We love to hear feedbacks from you. Thank you very much for subscribing. If you've not subscribed, you know what to do. Hit the button, subscribe so that you can be alerted every time we post a new video. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye.